So this meetup is an inauguration for the consciousness hacking group, which you'll hear about later on. I'm a big fan of their work. This is also, I said, we'll invite the IoT people. So I don't know if there are any IoT people here, but the Internet of Things, got a couple of you. So you notice we're kind of like the Hobbit. We have all these tribes. We have the IoT and the quantified self and the consciousness hacking. We've got transhumanists. We have augmented humanity folks. We have post-carbon people. We have everything. It's kind of like the LGBT community for tech people. And I think that's really a magical thing, because when you bring together many disparate segments all in its belief and a greater sense of humanity, you end up with what can appear to be magic. And I thought I'd start off by talking a little bit about these devices that we carry, because so often we'll take time and we'll make sure that they have batteries, and we'll make sure that they have covers and plastic cases, and they have to be charged up. But yeah, we walk around and we're exhausted, and we have headaches, and we feel hungry, yet these are full and warm, right? We take such good care of these devices. And these devices, this is an Apple Watch, right? I might as well have someone protect it. My baby, What is it that we don't care so much about our bodies anymore? We don't think about them, What will it take for this to change? So I want to start in kind of a unique way and ask everyone just to be still. Because right now your mind is traveling through time. It's in the past and it's in the future. But your body is stuck here, just chained to this floor at IBM. Just heavy. You can feel your heart, you can feel your hands sweating. Your mind is going really fast through time, but the rest of you is here. And when you take that present body and you marry it to the knowledge of yourself, we have the ability to do amazing things through technology and consciousness today. I like to consider myself a mindful cyborg. Amber Case once said, we're all cyborgs now, that we're all having machines, but clothing is technology. Technology is just a human's need to not be uncomfortable. Right? When we didn't have clothing, we made clothing so we'd be more comfortable. We didn't have air conditioning, so we come inside, It was too hard to walk up all those steps, so we made elevators. Did you ever notice man will go to any lengths to distract himself from being uncomfortable? Maybe we were supposed to be uncomfortable. What is the power we'll find in being uncomfortable? These are the topics I think that quantified self and hacking consciousness seek to address. Because your life's greatest mission shouldn't be to be happy. It should be being happy, being uncomfortable. Because that will always be here. Happy doesn't. My favorite thing anyone's ever done with me, they made me an art installation in Canada. I don't understand how people deal with me, but they apparently go up there and talk to me and read my data and all this other kind of fun stuff. About 3 years ago, I started showing up in the news. This was back in March. I don't represent the quantified self. The media likes to make that connection. You will never be able to control what people think of you and how they join you to the rest of the world. I'm most proud of my Business Week cover as the most disruptive force in personal tech on the planet last summer. I'm just a SQL database geek who said I could do, life is a big select statement. Select from girlfriend, insert to life, right? And there's nothing more kind than like looking at the technology that way. Select from mom, insert to loved and dinner. Join dinner with fight. All these conditions exist in the database of our lives. My favorite title, though, was I've been called the first post-private human. And I like that title because I think privacy is really this interesting thing that separates people. If you have enough money, you don't care about it. And if you have no money, you don't have any privacy. I've been poor. My parents were homeless. We lived in a car. I talk about this at TED. When you're homeless, you don't have any privacy. So this belief that you live in a state where you can maintain privacy is silly. It's a pipe dream that you might be rich one day. Get the fuck over it. Right? Because no one is going, there are kids out there dying for exposure, trying to be YouTube stars that people will forget about in 24 hours. That's the opposite of privacy. That's the opposite of loving who you are. So I decided in 2012 I would do a keynote in London and actually put my information up on the screens. So on the screens was my heart rate, my posture, my gait, my breath. No one watched the presentation. They all watched my data. And that's when I realized we're at the point in humanity where we care more about the numbers we can weaponize and prove than the human behind them. Why is it that we care so much about someone when we can count their last breaths, but when they're crying and asking you to take them back, we turn away? When they're hooked up to a machine trying to save their life, we care. But that same machine hooked up to them during the day makes them egotistical. So I post all my data now. Everything about how much I made, what I ate. Because we're not that interesting. This delusion that we live in some interesting life that people need to exemplify or understand, no one cares. And I defy you, if you're going to spend all your time on the internet, you should be looking for you. But who could use this information, and how could they use it against you, or the arguments around that? We'll talk more about that later. In 2008, I did something I thought was pretty simple, and that was never go offline. I was touching enough systems digitally that I said, I can keep a record of everything I do. So I said, how do I do it? That's not me, but I was worse than that. So in true quantified self-style, there are three things. How did you do it? What did you do? And what did you learn? So how did I do it? So the first thing I did was I looked at the people who knew the most about me. My doctor, who had 20 years of medical information, didn't know anything. He'd always have to go, why are you here? He had mountains of documentation that he couldn't read. And even if you digitized and scanned it, he wouldn't. He can't keep up with medical journals. So AI isn't going to save him. So then I started going to the doctor and writing down my own notes. And I'd walk in and tell him, he'd go, don't read that. I'm like, it's our notes. Don't read that. I'm like, but that's what you said last time. Like, that's what doctors are for, right? A relationship. In 2010, I went in and had all my charts pulled, and I digitized all my records and had someone transcribe them for 2 months. Had all my lab results for 20 years put in spreadsheets. I have pivot charts that'll blow your mind. And I would go back to my doctor and go, but this is happening, and this happened before, it happened before. He goes, just because you can see a pattern doesn't make it real. And then, well, then what are you going to do for me? I'm going to give you a prescription. Well, that's a pattern. You always give me a prescription. Right? So don't tell me not to use my information this way if you don't want to use it. By 2011, I was using big data trends like flu near you and Google had a flu thing. And I call my doctor and go, okay, I've got my notes, I've got your notes, and I've got 2 doors down the street, there's someone sick. Give me a prescription. No. 2 days later, I'd be sick, he'd give me a prescription. What do we have to do to prove that we know about ourselves? 300 years ago, we would have done it. Then in 2011, I started going to patient communities and learning about other people who had similar lives than mine, similar bodies. There are entire communities out there, people who are on the same medicines you are, who have the same illnesses you do, who trade information back and forth. By 2012, I was strapping gadgets all over my body. By 2013, I was signing up to platforms and combining this information together. This whole time, I was involved in genetic information from 23andMe and microbiome information from uBiome. And I had lots of information about myself, but nobody would take me seriously. So I said, there must be one missing step. I know all this information about my body, but I don't know anything about my soul. So I went looking for my soul. My soul actually was locked up in this thing called an iPhone. Because everything I did, from my health, to the places I traveled, to what I did at work, to the stuff I put on the internet, to the people I shared it with, to how I spent my money, to when I meditated, to how warm the room was, to what I listened to during the day, to when I left an opinion. All these screens, thousands of them, had my information locked away. So I spent months pulling it all out. And I decided not all information was created equal. So I said, how do I weigh this much information? So I created a system. Soft data, hard data, core data. Soft data was anything that could be constructed, anything I could fake. I'm having a great day. Look at me in Vienna. right? And I started looking at the types of interactions I had with people those days, how loud my voice was, how excited I was, how often I swore, who I fell in love with. I then took the hard data, the stuff that's harder to fake, right? Your skin temperature is your skin temperature is your skin temperature. Your blood count, your blood count, your blood count, right? Hard to fake that. Now you can learn to regulate it. You can, bring your heart rate down. But most people don't spend time doing that. I then took the third type of information, which were my lab results, microbiomes, anything that I could actually born with that kind of defined where I was during the day. I then took that information and knew how to weigh all of this data I was collecting. So soft data was heavier than hard data sometimes. Core data was heavier than environmental data other times. And I said, I needed to create a system to get this into something. So I basically created a low-friction data collection system. And this was simple. Low-friction data collection means you could follow me around and write down every time I do something. That means I still get to live life and you just watch me. Like a camera is a good low-friction data collection system if someone's watching it. But a lot of these systems, they won't let you get your information out. But they all will let you do one thing. They'll all let you tweet. So I have hundreds of fake Twitter accounts, all locked down, because my devices will tweet out my life's information, and I just scrape Twitter. See, information will find a way to be free, and it's your job to find it and help it. Because when that happens, the system doesn't win, we do. So if they're going to monetize our shares, we should monetize those shares back to us. I then took that information and put it into 10 categories that you saw earlier. I used binomial naming convention from botany that I learned about for the project, and everything came in as health.food, health.activity, health.sleep. 16 layers deep now, about 3,600 data points per section. I then moved into the Maslow's hierarchy of needs because I probably should not be taking pictures for Instagram before I have a job. And then I wrote a system to move the information out of the internet into a repository. What repository exists in your life today that allows you to see your entire day, your entire yesterday, and your entire tomorrow? You have it right now on your phone. What is it? What do you all use? It's maybe in your house. We used to have them, they were paper. What tool do we have that shows us tomorrow?
Calendar?
A calendar. So I moved all of my information into Google Calendar in real time. So as I went through my day, Google Calendar will automatically collect thousands of data points about me. And the color coding ties back to the color coding. So at any point I could toggle off, show me spirituality and show me money. Show me health and show me entertainment. Does Madonna make me healthy? Right? You can do amazing things with just the weaponization of time, colors, and kindness. So what did I learn? Well, first, the value of data is absolutely astronomically incredible. We are living in a Elysium right now. Real work doesn't exist. People send emails and they create PowerPoints. If you're an artist and you make things, I love you. Because I don't know many people who create stuff anymore. Machines create it, or crafts people do and sell it by the river and try to eat. Right? And this is silliness, right? We used to make stuff. We used to be purpose-driven instead of purpose-focused. And this data Elysium is really simple to explain because you could have about $10,000 worth of gadgets on your body, about $20,000 worth of gadgets in your home, and out of that $30,000, only about $5,000 of it was for the gadgets. What's the other $15,000 for? To buy the information back. Because a Fitbit's $100, but the data plan, $150. Body media, $99, buy the data back, $150. MyFitnessPal, logs your food. They just launched a plan yesterday or day before. $9 a month to buy back your meals. So let me get this right. I'm going to give you all my information, and you're going to sell it back to me. Ask the American Indians how that worked out. It's not good. I project by the end of the decade, most people, middle income, if there are any left, will spend a majority of their income buying their own information back. Because we're cannibalizing the very nature of what it means to be human, behavior. It was never supposed to be exploited. And the privacy junkies confuse this with safety. I'm all for safety, but if you're going to exploit my data, that's not privacy, that's exploitation. And I deserve to have that information. See, buying devices is cheap. Buying you back is the most expensive thing you will do for the rest of your life. And if it could be any more garishly displayed, Apple now has a $20,000 gold watch, a gold Mac, and a gold iPhone. They're basically hitting us in the knees by giving us things so expensive and garish that we will lock information into and then buy them back. The top 5 apps last year for Apple were apps that involved getting your memories back. Why? In February, the #1 app for Mac was Memoir. What does Memoir do? It scans iPhoto and shows you photos from the past. Why do we have to buy and have our memories served back to us? Don't we have minds for that? Don't we have friends to say, do you remember this? What have we done to each other? And when is it going to stop? I used the feedback for some dramatic things. 6 years ago, I smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I weighed 320 pounds. I was pretty angry, although you might think I'm angry right now. I'm not, I'm excited. I had been in the same relationship with someone who was very abusive for a very long time. I spent no time at all thinking about myself. I didn't regularly care for my teeth. Nothing. I did nothing well. But I took 3 years worth of data, and I said, if I took the shame out of this data, and I said, this is not about making me feel bad about myself. I should feel good about all of this ugliness that I have. What could I do? And I took 3 years worth of calendar data and made it start coming back to me. Coming back to me right before I was going to eat. Right before I was going to yell at someone. Right before I was going to stay up too late. And telling me what to do next. A GPS for someone who'd forgotten how to think. Because you owe it to yourself, don't you? And I became different. And then the media found out. Now, you don't want that to happen. You see, this concept of what's happening to us when you remove shame from data is really this act of perspective. And this is how I end my talk at TEDx, which is resilience is the act of perpetual perspective. So if you could live your life perpetually reliving your life, unjudgmentally, with kindness, you would become resilient to change. What happens, though, when you stop counting? What happens when the quantified self moves on? Not knowing the nature of fear, it is impossible to realize fearlessness. You have to start to embrace uncomfortable. Because in uncomfortable, there comes what people would define as magic. The mystics call it Chapo Perilous, this mysterious entity called I that cannot be located in time-space. It's weightless, odorless, and tasteless, like ordinary instruments. Brought into existence by thought, not outside of thought. Everything you fear is waiting inside. True wisdom. So what is this? What is this third thing that I'm talking about? It's this very simple concept that pain in life is absolutely mandatory. The suffering, though, is completely optional. You choose to suffer. The pain you must feel. A knife goes in your hand. But the absolute agony of betrayal of the person who did that to you is a choice. Pain is real. But what you do with it and how you count it counts. I mean, you think about these systems that are measuring every part of our day. This is me in New York City, where they put wearables on everybody and made the dancers dance to us like puppets, right? This is me, like, having a meltdown when we're a co-worker with a fight. This is like what you think your day looks like, but this is actually what your day looks like, right? There's 3 types of time that define pain. The Greeks called the first type of time chronos, or we know it as chronology. And that's the personification of time, the 1, 2, 3, 4, this is happening. The second type of time the Greeks talk about is kairos. And that's like the moment, the opportune time when something can happen. Some people, armies will talk about now's the time to strike. And you've all seen this where it feels like the stars align. And then there's this third thing that exists called synchronicity. And synchronicity is really the idea that it's Jung, I think, sin meaning to join and nicity meaning time, so to join time. See, I believe that if you could join time, as you could in a calendar, technology would actually assist in the belief in the weaponization, assist in the belief of magic, not in the weaponization of information. Too many people are using data to scare people, when it could be used to believe in magic. Now, I'm not saying you need to believe in magic. I'm just saying it wouldn't be a bad start. Because I spent years trying to wear things that were bulky, heavy, all the time, so I could measure and record everything. So I could record, organize the structure and understand it. So I could then type it through my device or my environment to tell me what to do. So I could use these areas to do it. So I could push everything to a cloud via my mobile device. I could use AI, charts, visualization, correlation, and metadata. I could store it in a Google Calendar, spreadsheets, and text documents. And it made marvelous changes. Hell, I was in TED for it. I've been on TV all over the world. People love to talk about it. But that's the part of the story that you want to hear. The part of the story you don't want to hear, we're going to talk about tonight. See, because Chronos is your life. And Google Calendar will only show you 15-minute slices. If you were to pull out my Google Diary, my day, you'd see thousands of data points. Right? And being able to Google yourself is scary, because suddenly you can find out anything. Right? Like, oh my gosh, I know everything about my life. You just start, you spend all day long, but you start to overwhelm yourself. I can find out anything, so I can do anything. It's a very dangerous world. They don't tell you when you join the quantified self you can solve your problems. Because if you solve your problems, you create new ones. Don't solve your problems. They're not fun. The new ones are much uglier. If you're in a bad relationship, stay. So to become a mindful cyborg, you have to take two things: time and kindness. You see, science is open source magic, and magic is open source religion. Now, if we go back to these very simple beliefs, we'd start to measure and look at our data differently. So now, I actually use things that are pretty much imperceptible or temporary. I only do it for spiritual reasons and the suspension of belief. I focus more on my vitals, proximity, and neurology, and my feedback loops are me to me, my devices to me, others to me, the environment to me, and time to me. So I've actually learned to bend time, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. The elements are temporal-based identity agents I created a system for, and I'll share that for the first time tonight. The connection is mesh, either on my body, in my car, or at home. And I use synchronicity as the analysis and metadata. So unlike metadata, which is data about data, meta is Pali or Sanskrit for friendliness or kindness toward oneself. When you do meta meditation, it's about being friendly with yourself. And you evolve into a higher state of consciousness by being kind to that young person you were before life got in the way. And it became ugly and mean. When you talk to that person and say, Chris, you'll be fine. One day you'll be in Vienna. One day you'll see the world. One day you won't feel alone. And you talk to that child. That love you bring to it, that's the love you bring to your information. And when you do that, magic happens. Because the quantified self is all cape and no magician. And I store it in HealthKit in something I built called Existence. I noticed this because I started taking photos and overlaying them with hundreds of pieces of information and posting them online. And what was strange was they started doing this weird synchronicitous loop. So as I applied Kairos time to photographs, I realized I was experiencing more than just random occurrences. This was more than chance. There was something happening, but I had to see it in photos. We take so many photos. So I started collecting more and more information in these photos and sharing these photos. And what was interesting was saving this as one photo on Instagram allowed me to see stuff, because Instagram I could say, show me 1 year ago today. But more importantly, I could say, show me other days that were 81 degrees. Show me other days that had 321 calories and only 4 people. You are doing the same thing over and over and over again, but you don't have temporal time agents to see it. So this is me in Vienna last year. You can collect a lot of information, but this is me in Vienna this week. Now I can gather real-time heart rate as I'm listening to this music and staring at his fingers between intermission and knowing when the sun is setting. You can engineer an awareness, a synchronicity to any moment. You don't need pills, you need skills. And they'll sell you a lot of pills. You see, because metadata is this. We don't know how to measure what we care about, so we care about what we measure. We don't know how to measure what we care about, so we care about what we measure. That is the fundamental mistake we're making as a community, and as business people, and as humans. And this will change, because I can tell you one thing. We are going to change it. We are unsustainable in the current state. So if you took your attention, which is outsourced to everything else, you took your time, which is tied to your attention like a slave, and you wrap some kindness around it, you can actually create synchronicity, or hacking consciousness plus the quantified self equals the dharmified self. The principles are pretty simple. Soft data, hard data, core data equals biological assistance. I'm living proof of that. And if you look at this, how you behave online creates this homeostasis with you. You notice you become the pictures of the food you eat. You become the type of people that you date, that you post. You will become in flow with what you put online. But more importantly, from a neuro standpoint, you will become the types of thoughts you have. Right? So a Fitbit is really powerful if you understand steps are just steps. They're not me. They're time. I spent this much time today doing something or not doing something. And the kindness you bring to that is what counts. More important, all of this information together can rewire your genetics. Because I'll tell you right now, I have a lot of scientists watching me, performing tests on me daily. I'm not only getting thinner, I'm getting smarter. I'm getting faster, I'm getting leaner. And I'm not doing this on my own. Something else has taken over. And this is exciting, because I think once we get rid of these beliefs that we need to be special, or we need to be different, or we need to measure, it needs to go, it needs to end. See, people aren't bad at computers. Computers are bad at people. And we spend so much time creating systems that we think can help us be us. So I decided to make a spectrum. Disruptive tech, calm tech, value tech, kind tech, contemplative tech. Pulls at your attention, happens in the periphery, exploits your values, shows you the best version of you possible, shows you the best version of life possible. I'm talking about quantified selflessness. We can design technology for this. Because if we took low friction data collection, ambient feedback, and we wrapped it around kindness, we would create a platform for awareness, or designing for inward compassion. You see, we buy things that we can't see with money we don't touch to share with people we have not met. We believe in magic. And we are showing this and proving this every day. So what I did was I put this together with a small team. We're releasing it at the Quantified Self Conference next month. I'm so excited about this. And I'm going to show you guys today how it works. So the very first thing is, it shows you all of your day in one view. But more importantly, you can see right now what's coming up or the past. So we show it in time view. And it's all the information exposed through your phone through no extra API calls. You just install it and it works. Because you're in here. And it's my job to get you out. Because you're trapped. And it's a timeline, so it's really good. I mean, you can see everything in order. You're like, okay, I can see that this happened and this happened. I can blame someone for something. But this one snapshot view of how we see life works because we pull to the future. Google Glass did that. You could actually pull to the future. It was very temporally driven. But more importantly, we needed to create a view that showed you how you spent your time. Timelines don't show you how you spent your time. A view of your life on the planet does. Because in this view, you can see that when these events happened, were you active when your heart rate was up? Were you at work? Who were you talking to? What photographs did you take? What did you post? What did you eat? Where were you when it happened? How high was the sun? What's going on right now? And in this application, not only can you go backward throughout your day, but you can go forward. So we show you tomorrow. And we show you through tomorrow through the most beautiful way possible. You, and the best version of you. Because something interesting happens when you have the choice to be happy. You are. But we're not given the choice to be happy. We're given the choice to make choices. I'm sick of choices. The last thing we did was we said, what could we do that would really blow people's minds? So we created these cards. And they're like ordinary cards. They show you information you'd want from an app. But more importantly, they show you your day. They show you what day something happened, where it happened, what you were feeling like, what the weather was like. Because all the information's in your phone. We just lay the data on top of the card. That gives us this amazing ability to actually then say, oh, you're having a bad day. Let's show you a card like a good day that sends you back to a new awareness. Are you with me? So a picture just in time. You never take a front-facing selfie on a sunny day without being happy. Does not happen. Right? This is not science. I mean, this is not hard algorithms. It's a choice we're making as humans not to make each other happy. So what we've done here is we've combined these things. I'm going to show you kind of the magic behind this, because when you track, you don't want to take pictures of this. When you track what the phone knows automatically about you, and you lay it over these parts of time, and you lay it over how you express and experience time, you start to see your life in a way that only you can understand and experience. It's much different than what you're used to dealing with now. It's computing designed from the heart because you were built for it. Because this is what's happening on your phone. I just decided to unpack now. Pull out pieces, turn them around, give them more information, put them back in your system, collapse them, put them on your photos, and hand them back to you. What you do with it is your magic. What I did with it was just assist you in being kind to it. Now, I only have one example of this because we're not showing anyone until the conference, but it's happening to me all the time now. This is me landing in New York City last month. I have approximately 25,000 photos my computer could have picked from, but it showed me the view of New York City from New Jersey. That algorithm doesn't exist. It just did it. The odds are against it at an astronomical level. Literally, the Earth could be hit with an asteroid, more likely. I got to the conference, went to go meet the organizer, said goodbye to him, walked away, launched the application, showed me New York City, the organizer from the year before. How doesn't know who I'm meeting? There's no way to explain what's happening other than we're assisting magic. We're assisting the mind to create and technology to deliver a deeper belief and awareness in the moment. Eating lunch is now matching up. First time I drew this up on a whiteboard to file the patents for it. I talked to my attorneys a year later, and the two pictures showed up. From the actual patents to the actual first time. Again, you just can't make this up. It just happens. And I'm really excited about it. You see, forgiveness is the abandonment of all hope for a better past. And hope is the abandonment for all plans for a better now. Thank you.